All right, let's talk about those people in our lives. You know the ones. Maybe it's even you. The ones who take forever to reply to a text or are super quiet in a group. It is so easy to get the wrong idea about them. But today, we're going to decode what's really going on behind all that silence.
Oh, you know this feeling, right? We've all been there. You send a text, you see those three little dots pop up, your heart does a little jump, and then poof, they're gone. And you're left hanging for days. It's so frustrating. But what if that silence isn't what we think it is? What if it's not about being rude, but about something way, way deeper?
Okay, now this slide is where it gets really interesting. Look at the difference here. On one side, you've got our go-to assumptions. They're rude, a total mess, or just not that into us. But psychology? It tells a completely different story, a much more brilliant one, actually. So let's start tearing down these myths. Right, let's tackle the biggest one first. We see that message sitting there, unread for days, and we immediately think, they're so lazy, or they're just all over the place. But honestly, the truth is usually the complete opposite. It all comes down to something called selective organization. Think of their brain like a super smart computer with a limited battery. It knows it can't run every single program at once, so it automatically shuts down the low priority stuff, like a quick "how are you" text, to pour all its power into solving the big complex problems. It's not chaos, it's efficiency. So here's what that actually looks like in real life. Yeah, their text messages might be a total disaster zone. But I bet if you looked at their work files or their notes for a creative project, you'd find everything is perfectly organized, down to the last detail. See, they're not lazy, they're just ruthless about prioritizing. They're filtering out all that digital noise to focus on what really truly matters. Okay, this one stings a little, doesn't it? When that reply never comes, it's so easy to make it about us. Did I say something weird? Are they just bored of me? But again, it's much more about their own internal wiring than it is about you. So here's the deal. For a brain that's wired for deep dives, small talk is more than just boring. It's physically draining. It's like asking an Olympic powerlifter to spend all day picking up feathers. It just burns through their mental energy without giving them any of that real, meaningful connection they crave. And this chart just lays it all out plain and simple. Look at that. Their mind is absolutely starving for deep, meaningful conversations. That's the huge slice of the pie. Meanwhile, those little check-in texts or random updates, they barely even make a dent. It's not personal, it's just how their brain allocates its bandwidth. This one seems so obvious, right? I mean, it's been 3 days, there's no reply, they have to be procrastinating. But what we see as putting it off is often something way more active and thoughtful. Psychologists call this cognitive reflection. I just call it the deep thinking pause. This is not passive waiting. It's a very active, very deliberate choice to not give a quick, superficial answer. They aren't delaying, they're marinating. They're giving your message the thought it actually deserves. This process really pulls back the curtain on what's happening during that silence. They get the message, but step 2 is key. They resist the urge to just fire back a simple K or a thumbs up emoji. Instead, they analyze it, they think about the consequences, and only then do they put together a real response. If you think about it, that's actually a huge sign of respect. Okay, so we've talked about mental efficiency, but now we're going to get to the real core of it all, because a lot of the time, this silence is actually a powerful form of self-protection and incredible self-awareness. This comparison says everything. We live in this world that's constantly screaming at us to be always on, but these silent responders, they're playing a different game. They have what's called an internal locus of evaluation. That's a fancy way of saying their self-worth comes from the inside, from their own growth and their own standards, not from how many likes they get or how fast they reply. They will always choose their own peace over performing for an audience. And this gets right to the heart of their guarded empathy. These people are incredibly sensitive to the emotional temperature of a conversation. They can feel the tension, the unspoken sadness, or the excitement just from the words on a screen. And absorbing all of that emotional information, wow, it can be heavy. So what this really means is that their silence isn't them avoiding you. It's a necessary recovery mode. It's them putting up a shield to protect their own mental energy. It's letting their nervous system take a much-needed break from the constant storm of emotional data. It's a radical act of self-care. Now, this whole idea doesn't just live in your text messages. It's also why these same people are often the quietest ones in a meeting or at a party. Their silence isn't emptiness. It's actually their superpower.
While they might not be saying a word, their brain is on fire. They're processing an insane amount of data that most of us miss. They're picking up on the tiny shifts in the room's energy, the body language, who's really in charge. They're reading all the unspoken tensions. Their silence is an act of intense listening. They're understanding the room on a level most people can't even imagine.
So, here's the big idea I want you to walk away with. The next time you're staring at your phone, waiting for that reply, or you notice that quiet person in the corner of the room, just try to shift your perspective. Don't see the silence as an absence, but as a presence. It's not a weakness. It just might be the signature of a deeply thoughtful, incredibly efficient, and emotionally secure mind at work. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to ask ourselves, doesn't it? When we're the quiet ones, is it because we've checked out? Or is it because we're using that silence as our most powerful tool to really see, to really understand, and to connect with the world in a way that truly matters? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.